You won't think twice when you say it until it comes back to bite you in the ass. I have helped thousands of people navigate toxic workplaces, and I can't tell you how many of my clients have been targeted by office politics, smear campaigns, or even been fired after saying one of these seemingly harmless things at work. I don't want you to make that same mistake. So to protect yourself and your career, you need to know the 5 forbidden phrases at work, the unexpected backlash they cause, and exactly what to say instead. I'm spilling it all in this video. Let's start with phrase number 1, which a lot of TikTok gurus will tell you to say, but it's gonna get you fired fast. That's not my job. Now, the sentiment is right. You're setting a boundary, but in the ears of your manager, even when you use corporate speak, this isn't a boundary. It's a challenge. It creates an immediate power struggle with the very person who controls your paycheck, which is not ideal and totally avoidable. Of course, you're not gonna say, that's not my job when your boss is giving you some high visibility task that's going to set you up for a promotion. You're going to want to say it when you're being assigned work that underlevels you. A classic example of this is actually one that a lot of my clients have struggled with. And if you're a woman in the workplace, you probably have been too. Office housework. Of course, Chad is never tapped to do the office chores. He'd do a terrible job at them anyway. Instead of saying that it's not your job, you need to adopt Chad's energy. Underperform on low-level work that isn't going to get you paid or promoted. Or steal another one of his tactics. Reject the work without the other person realizing that you're rejecting it. Side note, realizing that you can say you're going to do something and not do it was life-changing for me. My favorite way to do this is with what I call the yes and redirect. It neutralizes rejection by removing it. And bonus, it positions you as a leader when you use it. Let's pretend that you've been asked to prep a room before a big meeting. Instead of figuring out how to make it not your job, take responsibility and then delegate it.
Yes, that's important. I will ping the office manager to make sure it gets done before the meeting while I finalize the presentation.
At the end of the day, your boss doesn't care who does the work. They care that it gets done. But there's an element of this that I really want to hone in on, and that is the unfairness of the situation. Like, Chad isn't being asked to do extra work, but your boss keeps on dumping busy work on you. This is something that most of my clients have gone through as well. Unfairness is a hallmark of a toxic work environment after all. But it also brings us to the second forbidden phrase that you should never say at work. That's not fair. If you're like me, your justice orientation is set to max. Mine is so high, I almost became a lawyer. You expect the world to be fair, like it's supposed to be. Everyone should be treated the same. Favoritism shouldn't be a thing. And you should get the opportunities that you deserve. But that's not what happens. Lazy people get promoted. Your boss's incompetent favorite gets credit for your work, and you work your ass off only to watch people who don't get the opportunities that you deserve. In an ideal world, illuminating the injustice would trigger its remedy. But in the real world, when you point out unfairness, here's what happens. It gets worse. That's because of this psychological trap. 99% of people believe that they are fair. They have zero awareness of the biases operating in their minds. Recency bias, confirmation bias, the halo effect, these are just some of the cognitive biases inherent to our species. So even when your boss intends to be fair, unfair things happen. But if you confront your manager about their bias, you aren't just pointing out their mistake. You're attacking their identity. To survive that attack, their brain has to choose reconcile or rationalize. When they reconcile, they're willing to admit that they were wrong, that they were being unfair. But we all know that's not usually what happens. Instead, they're going to rationalize. To protect their belief that they are being fair and that they're a fair person, their brain will rationalize their decisions. Cognitive dissonance takes the wheel. They'll undermine evidence, minimize your work, or even ignore proof if you show it. Now, they've constructed a new reality. You're not a victim of unfairness, you're inadequate. What I'm saying is, highlighting unfairness is going to make the problem so much worse. Of course, this does not mean that you let it go. Instead, you're going to take a different approach. You are going to use the obvious choice script. Do not try to force them to admit that they were being unfair. Force them to define what fair looks like in the future. Let's say that Chad gets a project that you earned. You're going to ask,
I want to be the obvious choice for the next project like this. How can we make that happen?
You aren't exposing their bias or them. You're pinning them down to a standard. Obviously, what you say is going to be tailored to the situation. So I actually have a few extra scripts that I made in the quick reference guide that I made to go with this episode. You can download it by scanning the QR code on screen or following the link in the description. That being said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like this one sales VP that I worked with, who was a proud misogynist. At one point, he was forced to hire a woman. Let's call her Vanessa. Obviously, he made her life hell. The only way she could have been treated fairly by him would have been to be born a different biological gender. Luckily, she was a badass who would not put up with his shit, which brings us to the next thing that you should never say at work. I'm looking for a new job. Unfortunately, a lot of people make this mistake because they think that it's a threat, that if they proclaim that they're going to leave, if things don't change, that their boss or HR is going to scramble to fix the situation, that they'll be desperate to stop them from leaving. But that's not usually how it plays out. Now, I need to confront a tough truth that I really hate, especially at a time where companies seem to really want to replace us with AI. When you're open about seeking new opportunities at work, you're a flight risk. They know that you want the F out, and they are going to act accordingly. At best, the company is going to divest in you. Your opportunities, pay increases, and professional development are all going to be cut off. At worst, they won't wait for you to put in your notice. If they know that you have one foot out the door, your name is going to be at the top of the chopping block. So here is what you are going to do instead. Launch a stealth search. Your job is not an airport. You do not need to announce your departure until boarding time. This is exactly what Vanessa did. Because she had confided in me about the issues with her boss, I assumed that she was searching and I would have been happy to support her on the down low. But she never said a word to anyone until she handed in her resignation letter. The funniest part though, her boss was shocked, made a massive deal about what a talent she was and how they tried to throw more money at her face to get her to stay. Low-key, I was happy because he was mad she was leaving him in a lurch. And when you leave a toxic work situation, there's no reason to apologize for it. And honestly, seeing that little bit of karma paid back to the toxic boss was chef's kiss. Now, I want to be clear. While Vanessa was not announcing her job search or making threats to quit if her toxic VP was not held accountable, she was not being quiet either. She was open about her concerns and experience with key people, including myself, the head of HR, and our chief operating officer. Unfortunately, the powers that be, including HR, had zero interest in fixing the situation. Now, Vanessa was not dumb. She knew how things worked, so I don't think she aired these grievances expecting for them to be fixed at all. I think she was making a paper trail and that those powers that be that I mentioned were too dumb to realize it. Vanessa made sure that she had dotted her I's and crossed her T's without saying why, which brings us to the fourth thing that you should never say at work. I'm talking to a lawyer. If you are dealing with a sexist a-hole boss like Vanessa was, should you be talking to a lawyer? Hell yes. Standard disclaimer here, I'm not a lawyer. This isn't legal advice. Please hire one. But here's where way too many people F this up. They think that announcing that they have a lawyer is a power move. It's not. It's a flare gun that tells the company exactly where to aim. Your company has a whole team of lawyers. They are on staff and they spend all day, every day protecting the company from litigation. As soon as you allude to anything legal, your manager and HR are no longer working with you. They are taking orders from the legal department on how to build a bulletproof case against you, one that won't bite them in the ass with a retaliation suit. Instead of revealing your hand, you're going to play smart by being dumb. Your company rigged the game before you even started playing by including an arbitration clause in your employment agreement and an ironclad NDA. Even if you have a case that your lawyer has told you is on lock, you need to give yourself as many advantages as possible, and you do that when you move in silence. Do not interrupt your enemy while they're making a mistake. Give them enough rope to hang themselves with while you and your lawyer build a case in the shadows. Now, most workplace issues won't end up in a courtroom, but there is a different kind of sharing that won't necessarily trigger legal action, but it will ensnare you in gossip, destroy your reputation at work, and it might get you fired. Which brings me to the fifth thing that you should never say at work. And well, it's not so much as a phrase as it is a category. You need to stop oversharing at work. You might think that you are just venting to a work friend, but the wrong information in the wrong hands can be weaponized against you. One of my clients, Laura, learned this the hard way. Laura works in finance and her salary was pretty good on paper, but she was in a spot that so many ambitious professionals are in. She was under a crushing amount of student loan debt, and she was trying to survive in a high cost of living city. She also felt an immense amount of pressure to keep up. She needed to dress a certain way, flash certain labels, and maintain a certain appearance, which put her operating costs higher than her income. Suddenly, she found herself in tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. One day, she vented to her coworker Avery about the crushing cost of looking the part. She thought that they were in the same boat, but Laura was wrong. Avery was the type that probably had a trust fund bankrolling her lifestyle. So she didn't relate or keep Laura's secret. She turned it into office currency. Soon, the entire firm knew about Laura's debt. And this didn't just make Laura the subject of gossip. Her professional reputation was being dragged. It seeded doubt in her skills at work. If she couldn't manage her own money, how could she do her job? Oversharing at work is always a risk. Spilling tea that should stay in the cup can cost you promotions, your privacy, and even your job. Laura learned the hard way that work friends aren't real friends. And I don't want you to make the mistake by oversharing. So to protect your professional reputation and your job, you need to know exactly where the line is of what you should say to your coworkers and what you shouldn't. So I want you to go watch this video next where I reveal the 7 things that you should never tell your coworkers so that you can avoid the drama that Laura had to deal with. I'll see you over there, bestie.